Hello, good evening, and welcome to another edition of Wednesday Night Magic, presented by Team Instant Speed. I'm Clifford. I'm joined with Skybills and Roguelink. How are y'all tonight?
Hello.
Hello. Doing well. How about you, Clifford?
I am excited. This is our final edition of Wednesday Night Magic before GDQ. We'll be taking next week off for GDQ, and the week after that also off for the 4th of July and for everybody to get back home from GDQ. So, we're going to have lots and lots of excitement tonight to get everybody to carry through for the next couple of weeks for everybody at home. I know everybody at GDQ is going to get to have the Wednesday Night Magic fever, Team Instant Speed fun all week next week, but unfortunately everybody at home isn't going to be able to participate. So tonight we have lots of fun matches coming up, lots of great commentary. So I am going to leave it to Sky and Roguelink, and I might talk to y'all a little later. Y'all have fun.
I'd see you, Clifford.
All right. Sounds good, Clifford. We'll see you in a bit. So, Roguelink, there's so much to cover here. First, we'll have this fantastic matchup for what looks like Bant on Seawolf's side. I'm not sure what Uncle Drake has picked yet. Or no, Uncle Drake, has picked Bant. I don't know what Seawolf's going to pick. I want to say it's going to be Control, but every time I say Seawolf's going to play Control, I'm wrong about that. So, again, we are within spoiler season right now. We're going to be talking about spoilers and stuff while we're in between matches and such. Roguelink, while we're waiting for this match to get started, what is your initial impression of spoilers? We've had a lot come out since the last Wednesday Night Magic. What do you think so far?
Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting format. Some things that I wasn't expecting, like there's a elemental tribal theme that's in red, and I think one other color, but there's elementals all over the place. But one of the Chandras buffs elementals. There's an elemental that buffs other elementals. It's kind of interesting. But just in general, looking forward to the super simple, just real fun magic in terms of like a limited environment. And it looks like it's going to be that so far.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to some of the limited gameplay here. And again, we're going to get into this in a bit, but it looks as if right now Uncle Drake is matching up with Seawolf here, so I am anxious to see what Seawolf's going to play. Again, I don't want to make any assumptions because every time I think Seawolf's going to play something, Seawolf plays something entirely different. So let's see what he presents tonight as well.
I think the one thing we know about Seawolf is they're probably going to be playing jank of some description.
Some kind of jank control, typically, you know. Oh, this is, looks like Bant Proliferate here from Uncle Drake. I like what I'm seeing in Uncle Drake's opening hand, except that mana situation. That's always one of the toughest parts. So, again, even though this is our last Wednesday Night Magic until after GDQ and beyond, remember, folks, that there is the Core 2020 coming out. And also with Core 2020, we are getting the London Mulligan over the Vancouver Mulligan. So, again, that will influence decisions over Mulligans for sure.
It looks like Seawolf also on some sort of count. No, I think it's just Selesnya, just normal Selesnya.
I see an isolated chapel back there. Looks like Abzan, actually.
Oh, yep, good point. Yeah, definitely.
Sneaky.
So we've got 3-color on 3-color this time.
Yeah,
Uncle Drake fortunately getting that third land with the turn 3 Jade Light.
Tough decision there from Uncle Drake. Do you throw out the op there, or do you go to get a land for Ajani? It would appear that with these two colors going, this would definitely be a race of some kind, especially since Seawolf is playing black. You know, Command the Dreadhorde is probably in there to some capacity.
Yeah, it's certainly a possibility. I think most Command decks are black-green though, right? Do they usually splash white?
I have seen Abzan decks splash for Command the Dreadhorde, because remember, if there's life gain, most likely there will be Command the Dreadhorde involved. It would not surprise me. If I were in Uncle Drake's shoes right now, I would assume that deck is that card is present within Seawolf's deck. Why not? There's too much value in it. Speaking of life gain, there it is. Soren Vengeful Bloodlord, probably one of my favorite Sorens for a long time. Just all of the life gain here, which is fantastic considering Resplendent Angel's position on the board right now.
Yeah, this new Soren is definitely one of my favorite Planeswalkers from the new set, for sure. And looks like Resplendent Angel is going to start doing their thing. Making an angel every turn.
Uncle Drake here opting to receive some assistance. Uncle Drake keeping the guild gate. Ooh, that was a spicy decision there.
Yeah, looks like... I still think Uncle Drake is in pretty strong command of this game. But yeah, that lifelink is really gonna... Uncle Drake has to be really careful here to make sure that they don't lose it. Fortunately for Uncle Drake, Soren only gives lifelink on Seawolf's turn, so you don't get the defensive Resplendent Angel triggers, because Resplendent Angel doesn't care if it's your turn or not. So long as you gained the life, you're going to be getting another Angel.
So now we see another Knight of Autumn from the top of Seawolf's deck. Looking really good for Seawolf so far. And right now, this is tough for Uncle Drake because pre-board, I feel like Uncle Drake was more preparing for a control setup as we see the two Dovin's Veto present.
Yeah, unfortunately with the life gain and Seawolf having just the right creatures, Uncle Drake is now on the back foot, unfortunately. Seawolf cracking in, pretty much guaranteed to get another Angel. Now, once you start getting an Angel every turn, like even just that first Angel, if you can give your Angels lifelink via a Lyra or a Soren, yeah, that's gonna be it.
And that's why we see so much removal nowadays, Roguelink, because if that Resplendent Angel gets loose, and this is the case for a ton of cards like this, Thunderstreet Dryad is one card that is underplayed that I feel that comes to mind. There are certain cards in this format, if you let them get out of hand, the game is over. Even from a control setup, if you let any of the Teferis get out of hand, it's done as well.
Oh, for sure. At least it looks like Uncle Drake does have some anti-air removal, and is just ready and waiting. Curious to see what Seawolf's gonna do with their sideboard.
So there's two cards I feel like that are kind of missing here. The first one is one of my favorite Planeswalkers of all time, and I can safely say this now, Nissa Who Shakes the World, especially with all the Proliferate. I would feel like that's missing, and then of course Shalai. If you're running green-white, and especially with all the Yoink running around, why not at that point?
Yeah, I know personally I find Shalai's a little better in more creature-heavy strategies, and if Uncle Drake's leaning more to control, it might have not been something they considered.
Well, I've seen it even in control side decks before, because manipulation decks are just too tough to go against without that Shalai in your back pocket.
Yeah, the hexproof to yourself is very important.
And we're going to see that too. Speaking of spoilers, that's going to be the white leyline. Is if you have it in your hand at the beginning of the match, you will have hexproof for the duration of as long as you control that enchantment. So it should be interesting. Adanto Vanguard being Seawolf's first card. So Uncle Drake will probably want to take advantage of the early match here. Probably will play Teferi Time Raveler here to bounce the Vanguard. Why not? You get a nice draw, and getting that Vanguard back into Summoning Sickness mode seems good.
Yeah, Uncle Drake can't see Seawolf's hand, of course, but not having a 3-drop is going to make having, well, it won't be too bad. The Vanguard, again on 3, won't set Seawolf back too much, even able to play that land tapped.
Now we see in Seawolf's hand right now, speaking of Seawolf's hand, look at that Kaya's Wrath there, Rogue Link. That, I would keep an eye on that particular card in Seawolf's hand throughout the match, because that could make or break this game
That's
too.
more like it.
Yeah, I wonder if that's main board or sideboard. I wouldn't be surprised if that was sideboard from Seawolf in order to get rid of all of Uncle Drake's Explore creatures that were used last game.
Yeah, Seawolf and I have actually been working on this strategy where you put all these indestructible creatures, or creatures capable of gaining indestructible, and black and white colors in particular, not necessarily the green, Gideon being another thing that can be indestructible on the field, and just wrathing creature heavy decks. It's so devastating for them if you can pull it off properly. Oh, I just thought about something, Rogue Link. Using Proliferate with Teferi on the field just seems so dirty to me suddenly.
Yeah, Proliferate's pretty good with pretty much any Planeswalker, honestly. Some definitely more than others, but Teferi getting, especially this particular Teferi, being able to get the -3 so easily
Don't worry, I got
is
this.
super beneficial.
I don't know how I feel about the Proliferate with Teferi on the field. I mean, it's too good is what I mean.
Yeah, Uncle Drake had just the right mana for pretty much everything here. Getting 2 counters on the Walker, getting Pump Teferi.
Although, again, we don't know. Oh yes, Kaya's Wrath is on there, and I told everybody to watch over that card as well. That is going to be a big sigh of relief for Seawolf, and Seawolf does have a very creature-heavy hand right now. Those Tristanis are going to be really good, and again, without the foresight of knowing, Uncle Drake's going to wish that Ixalan's Binding was on the Tristani. Tristani is such a devastating card, and again, 5 mana. If Tristani goes unchecked for too long, the person who has the Tristani will basically win the game at that point. And that is also a nice counter for Yoink decks as well, because all of your cards will come back to you.
And if Seawolf's feeling particularly aggressive, they could even play one Tristani into the other, which will get rid of the first, but you'll end up with 4 1/1 soldier tokens.
Well, if I'm reading the board right, and I'm Seawolf, I would definitely want to do just that, because you don't want to get Ixalan's Binding and miss out on the 2 tokens on top of that.
I think the question is, does Seawolf need to keep back that second
I
Tristani
have a plan.
in order to rebuild? I don't think Uncle Drake's really shown any sweepers yet, but I could definitely see Seawolf not wanting to be too aggressive and keep that second Tristani in order to rebuild the board quickly, if it comes to that.
Absolutely. In white, available right now prior to M20 again. That part is very important. There's Cleansing Nova right now, and there's also Settle the Wreckage. Now, Settle the Wreckage isn't as bad because you have to attack to that, so there are ways you can play around Settle, but Cleansing Nova can be very devastating also when played at the right time. There's the Command the Dreadhorde. I knew Seawolf had that in his deck.
And that's conceived.
That, absolutely. What an interesting Bant build from Seawolf. Excuse me, I mean Abzan. See, I'm getting my Kanzatarkir and Alara mixed up here. So Seawolf with the Abzan deck wins the match. I really like the homebrew Abzan. Well done. And Uncle Drake's Bant deck as well has some potential to it. I think if a few cards were to be swapped out, that same basic concept is really good. The idea of giving Teferi's counters via Proliferate is really scary in a format where Teferi pretty much build rules it as of now.
Yeah, I feel like I definitely
me,
feel like
I mean
Uncle
Abzan.
I definitely feel like Uncle Drake's deck didn't really have a strong chance to cook off that game, unfortunately. Really seemed to fall behind once that first board wipe hit the battlefield in game 2. And really, Seawolf just seemed to have all the wide answers in order to answer the seemed to go tall strategy that Uncle Drake was going for.
And according to what Seawolf has just told us, the Dread Horde is a side deck card. That's really interesting. I would have figured without the life gain it would have been the main board, but I suppose when you're playing with a 6-mana card, and this is, again, you need to be set up as soon as possible, I could see where Dread Horde could be lacking there, so that seems pretty reasonable. Now, here's a great match here. We have Team Instant Speed's own Clifford against Xelnus, two both very tried-and-true Magic players. Looking forward to this one. I wonder what deck each person will be using.
Yeah, it looks like Clifford's thinking Thudless Thud. But we'll see.
Those are your colors, Roguelink.
It's true. I am a huge sucker for Mardu anything. Diet Thud, that's a good name for it.
I like that, Seawolf. So I predict then we are going to be seeing one of the most deadly cards in these colors, Priest of the Forgotten Gods. And again, it doesn't look like a strong card, but that's another card left unchecked can win a game pretty easily.
Yeah, the problem with Priest of the Forgotten Gods is it can be a little slow, depending on what kind of deck you're up against. It's also particularly bad if your opponent has a lot of cheap removal, because that 2 toughness makes it really easy to get rid of.
Yeah, you certainly wouldn't want to play that against red deck wins, that's for sure.
Right, there's definitely much more aggressive sack outlets you'd want to go for, like the Fireblade, for instance. But it all comes down to, what kind of deck you're up against, and whether you're doing the more grindy sort of sacrifice deck with Priest of the Gods, or if you're just going full aggro with Fireblades and Dread Horde Butchers.
Dang, don't make us wait too much longer, Xelnus. I'm excited to see what decks are going to be played here.
I believe Xelnus is usually on control, correct?
I want to say yes, but this format is doing really odd things to people's playstyles so far. At least in my opinion. Not you, Roguelink. You've always stuck to your guns, and I appreciate that. But this format is forcing people either into hyper aggro or like hyper control. There's not too much of an in-between I've seen so far. And if you would like to see actual statistical evidence of that, take a look at the deck list for Mythic Championships, where I have quite a few friends going to that. And there has been so much talk about the fact that over half of the MPL players are choosing Esper, either one variant or the other, as their deck of choice. It's a ridiculous amount of Esper that's being played at this championship this week. And here we go, Roguelink. I am ready for this, and I know these are your favorite colors, so I know you're going to have a lot to say on Clifford's side.
Oh yeah, this is that's right. I remember Clifford playing this deck before. This is going to come down to Clifford replaying the same pump spells over and over and over with cards like 10th District Legionnaire and Feather, as well as having several bodies that were going to fit and hold all of these super good pump spells. It looks like Xelnus is on Dread Horde, Abzan Dread Horde.
Alright, so how about that first hand, by the way, from Clifford? Did you see what the Shuffler did? Clifford needed white mana and had 4 mana in hand and did not have 1 mana that was capable of generating white mana, so Clifford had to mulligan. And again, this is one of the times where it's just like, dang, the London mulligan can't get here fast enough.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I got spoiled by the London mulligan during the Singleton event, because as soon as it went away, I wanted it to come back. Clifford with the free swing in there and the Dread Horde Butcher. Usually people don't block with the Mana Dorks from turn 1 or turn 2. But this Sorin is going to start chipping away at Clifford's life total.
Yeah, this was a really gutsy yet good move here by Zelnus. Zelnus had one of two ways to do this. Zelnus could have double dropped the Wild Growth Walkers, probably something that I may have done because it was conservative. But at the same point, the Sorin prevents it from having Clifford being able to run away with it because, as you know, Mardu, aggro deck for the most part, likes to deal a lot of damage. But Clifford is not buying it. Clifford's like, nah, I'm just going to ignore Sorin for now. It's okay. So now Zelnus here going with Wild Growth Walker and then Merfolk Branch Walker because, again, removal is very prevalent in these colors, to say the least. There's another Branch Walker for next turn. And just like that, Zelnus has a really good defense built up, plus a Sorin now. I'm interested to see how Clifford handles this.
Yeah, the Walker is already going to have a pretty big shield. Unfortunately, the Dreadhorde is able to just plow right through that Walker with the 3 toughness, just a little too much. Zelnus does always have the option to double block, but Clifford has that abnormal endurance in hand, which is going to bring that Dreadhorde Butcher right back. So probably just going to crack in with everything here. Yep, that makes sense. Probably going to put the abnormal endurance on the Butcher, if I had to guess. Oh, nope. Choosing to save Judy instead.
That makes sense. Now, this is where I would say, if I were to be playing this, I'd be like, who plays that card? What a card for Clifford to be playing. Nobody sees it coming. And again, just that about Najane can be enough to make or break a match when somebody's expecting you to play something and then something else happens. So, well done there by Clifford, for sure.
Zelnus with 2 Dreadhordes in hand. Unfortunately, nowhere near casting them. I think Zelnus has been missing their land drops, unfortunately. But right on cue, there's that Temple Garden.
And speaking of right on cue, do you go for the Aurelia here, or do you play the Hero of Precinct 1 to prompt the procs for Integrity Intervention plus Aurelia then?
I think you go with Aurelia. Try to build back that board just a little bit. I think Clifford's trying to decide whether or not they want to swing in with the Legionnaire here. Which, you know, not a terrible play, getting rid of the Walker, but the Branch Walker is just going to block with that 2 power, though the Legionnaire is going to get through with just a little bit, and that Death Trigger from Judy going to take out that Sorin.
I have to admit, for the amount Zelnus has been short mana, Zelnus really has been making the most out of this match. Clifford has come in, arm swinging, and Zelnus is doing everything to put up a good defense. Speaking of a defense, that is a Jade Lightwalker on Zelnus' side of the field. Should Zelnus be able to hang on to the Wild Growth Walker, Zelnus will gain 6 life next turn and will be able to peek at the top 2 cards for a chance at a land or to manipulate the draw. However, Clifford now, going at full speed here, is probably going to use the Mentor ability here. And I think Clifford's just going to go full board here. Put some 1/1 counters on, you have Integrity Intervention, going straight for the face, not even worrying about Tamiyo at this point. You gotta like it. It's a good strategy.
Yeah, I would probably put the counter on Judith here. Oh, yep, there we go. The Aurelia putting the counter on Judith, Tarjak putting the counter on Arella, Integrity pumping up the Judy anyway, and there goes the Walker with a decent amount of mana either flying over or trampling through.
And Zelnus here ultimately falling because you're just short of mana. And Zelnus wasn't really drawing that well throughout the match, considering that that's how powerful Zelnus' deck is. It can even withstand a bad draw. It's just Clifford is playing a very strong deck with Seed of the Feather here, so this is a partial feather deck. I say partial because there's only 2 feathers. But this is a mix between Aristocrats and Feather Angels, and I've never seen anything quite like this before, and that's what I like about Wednesday Night Magic. This is a break from the mundane. It is a break from the meta. I very much admire what Clifford's doing here. I wish I could see what Zelnus has done with their deck as well.
Yeah, Clifford's definitely got a little bit of everything here. A lot of 2-ofs for variety, which can really help when it comes to taking your buffs, your combat buffs, all that good stuff, and having the flexibility to put it where you need it and on who you need it, and on who needs it.
I just noticed this. Did you see that one's labeled as top and one's labeled as bottom? We have a funny joke here at Wednesday Night Magic where it seems like some nights it sways in favor of one team versus another. There's team top and team bottom. I always found that pretty funny personally, and it's nice to see that Speed Gaming has followed suit with that. So Clifford here getting probably about as good of a 5 as you can get on a Vancouver Mulligan. Not bad. Unfortunately, the problem with this is timing. Clifford won't be able to take as much advantage of the early game here, and look at all of that removal and types of removal in Zelnus' hand. That's crazy. Moment of Craving, Teferi, Assassin's Trophy. It's everything a Dreadhorde deck would probably want to start out against a deck like Clifford's.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if Zelnus boarded in a significant amount of that removal in order to get some of the crazier high power targets that Clifford showed last game.
Zelnus trying to decide what type of move they want to make, and that does determine what land Zelnus wants to play here. Going for the Tamiyo early. All of these plays are surprising me tonight, and they're not necessarily bad plays, they're plays that you don't think of too much. I was thinking there maybe bounce with the Teferi, maybe Moment of Craving, maybe hold some mana up, but Zelnus just going right in with the Tamiyo saying, you know what, you should probably damage this, and Clifford now, mana short, Zelnus reading the board properly, probably Tamiyo was a great idea here, and Clifford not caring, going straight for the face here for Zelnus, but Zelnus has a lot of ways to gain life back, and at this rate with Tamiyo now searching for things, without a doubt, I would say the next search this turn is probably going to be for Jade Light Ranger.
Yeah, Jade Light Ranger definitely seems like a good search here with that Wild Growth blocker in hand. Next turn, Zelnus able to get a Walker, both Walkers down, the Wild Growth Walker and the Merfolk Branch Walker, for some nice life gain and keeping control of the board. Clifford unfortunately hurting on mana a bit here.
Zelnus returning the Branch Walker back to the hand instead of looking for Jade Light. Nothing wrong with that. Ooh, that is a Vraska Golgari Queen on Zelnus' side. Another very underused Planeswalker right now. I feel like Vraska should see more play, but a lot of people are only playing it in this Dreadhorde deck in the mana at this point. So again, I like the Vraska here, but instead going for Craving, which why not? Pad the life total further, protect Teferi. Seems like a reasonable play here from Zelnus.
Branch Walker coming down, putting a few counters on Wild Growth, and that Teferi is really going to help slow Clifford down, especially with no mana, and unfortunately Clifford's just going to need to concede.
And again, Clifford also had to go down to 5 there, and again, that's on the Vancouver Mulligan. I'm interested to see if under the new London Mulligan rules coming out soon, if that is going to make a 5-card hand more viable. So remember, Vancouver Mulligan is, if you have 5, you can scry 1, but on the London Mulligan, you draw 7, and if you have to mulligan down to 5, you put 2 back and onto the bottom of the deck. So you get to look at your hand and manipulate it more under the London Mulligan, making less of those non-games, which we just saw possible.
Yeah, the fact that you get to choose which cards go away definitely allow you to sculpt your hands a little better with the new London Mulligan. And this is a great 3 from Clifford here.
It's not bad. It's missing white mana, but Clifford can make do until that happens. One of the best draws Clifford can get here is white mana at this point, because being able to go just 1, 2, 3... Footlight. There it is! There's Clifftop Retreat! Ooh.
I was just going to say Clifftop Retreat's going to be really good here. Clifford's deck really heavy on the red mana, but you want to get that 2-drop. Vindicator is really, really strong if you put basically anything on it, especially if you can pump up that toughness.
Zelnus, though, Zelnus' hand is nothing to look down at either, though. The only thing Zelnus is really missing is more mana, which the Branchwalkers can go fetch at some point. But Clifford's hand looking really good here in the early game.
Yeah, Zelnus is going to need to find some blue in order to take control of the game with those Teferis. But with just the green and black they currently have access to, they're really able to, green, black, and white, sorry, they're really able to get a lot of life back from the wild growth walkers and the branch walkers. So it's definitely still anybody's game. That finding the land, while good, does prevent the branch walker from really holding back this board too much. So Judith was going to pump everybody anyway.
Ooh, if you're Clifford here, what do? If you play Integrity Intervention, you get a lot of damage done at once.
Yeah, I think Clifford is going to be holding back the Integrity here in order to bump up the Vindicator. Because that 1 toughness is pretty tough, so if there's anything that gets through that initial 2 damage, it's probably going to kill the Vindicator. Wild Growth Walker being a perfect example of this.
Zelna's reading the room right. Looks like, hey, I think Clifford might be land flooding a little bit. Decides to go Zelnus' face. I think this actually might be it here. Yeah, the Integrity should do it here.
Oops. Oh wait, just doing the okay. There were a couple ways. There were a couple ways that could have gone.
you and I saw that 2 different ways. I saw the attack go through. I'm like, wait a second.
I was expecting 6 power coming in with the double strike.
That's what I was expecting, especially with the mana tapped out. However, if there was mana that was still available to Zelnus, the absolute right play there is to do what Clifford did. But I was really confused for a second. But you know what? Had the same end result. Doesn't matter how you get there.
Yeah, personally, I was Clifford definitely did that the exact opposite way I would have, where I would have Judith to get rid of the Planeswalker, and then swung in with more enough power double strike in order to clear out that game.
And I always say this about Magic in general. I mean, you can prepare your decks properly, you can calculate your sideboard, but it always comes down to the first 7, especially when there's an aggro deck involved. Those first 7 cards, they have to be your best 7 that you can draw at the beginning to deal with what you have. So
yeah, making sure that your deck is consistent enough to not need to mulligan, or at the very least get the best out of that 7 is always really important. You know, when you think about it, the way I always, and I know I've mentioned this a couple times on stream, but the way I always look at Magic decks is you don't have 60 cards, you have 9 cards. You have 9 times 4 plus 24 mana, that's your 60 cards. So if you have 9 effects, quote unquote, then that's going to give you a pretty consistent deck.
Yeah, there's such a tight clock on the current standard right now. I haven't seen a clock this tight since when there was Mana Leak, Vapor Snag, Delver's Secrets versus Mono White Humans. And you all know what format I'm talking about. Yes, it was Innistrad. Because, my goodness, that's what this format is reminding me of right now. If you are not going by turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, you could lose whatever leverage you have. And that's why Control is so crazy right now. You think the Control decks would not be able to defend themselves against Mono Red and Mono White, but somehow Teferi just seems to get it done there. And again, you have to respect what Zelnus did there, because there are Teferis, and it looked like, if I were to guess, 6 to 8 Teferis, conservatively, if not 8 Teferis there. And Teferi is what puts Control in there. Does it put Control too much in there? Maybe. But it's still something where one card can save a whole archetype like that. And of course, I'm talking about Teferi Time Raveler, which is not rotating anytime soon. And Wizards had to print answers for that. So while we're waiting for this matchup with Algernon and Sage to begin. Speaking of that, Wizards today had released a card to deal with both Teferis, because again, Teferi is just too powerful right now. So the card that was released today is called Fry. It's 1 in red. And it says the spell can't be countered. Great start if you want to build a card against Teferi. And it says Fry deals 5 damage to target creature or a planeswalker. Conditionally, it's got to be white or blue. But Wizards knew what they were doing when they printed Fry. That's one of those cards that was printed just for the meta format. So they are aware of what is going on right now. And again, I was talking about the statistics earlier for the Pro Tour right now. For Mythic Championship 3, I believe overall, the field of Esper is almost half the tournament. I've never seen a single deck, or a single deck type, I'll say, because it's split between hero and control of Esper, just be that much in control right now, pardon the pun. So Wizards has started to print some answers in M20, answers for Mono Red. There's some great stuff. Roguelink, you were talking about Mono White being very strong as well. Excited about that.
Yeah, there's a... Oh, go ahead.
Well, here's the other thing, too, and this is something I want to post to everybody in chat. Today it was announced that Wizards has reprinted the Temples, and if you don't remember what the Temples are, those are the Scry lands from Theros block, which most of us remember very fondly. Theros was a wonderful time to be involved in Standard Magic. Why is Wizards providing people with more opportunities to manipulate the land base? There's already so much going on here. At this point, Wizards is going to have to print massive land destruction to make up for the variety of lands available to people. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think, let's see, so we're losing a couple dual lands, and these are also all slow mana, which is very important. So the temples are basically just really, really strong guild gates. They're not super fast. They don't have an option to come into play fast. So when you think about it, things like the Temple of Triumph, which always comes into play tapped, are replacing things like the Clifftop Retreat, which has an option to come in untapped. And since those are rotating out, I think it'll actually slow down the mana base quite significantly, because you won't have as much land that you're able to come into play untapped, that taps for multiple colors.
That does mean, though, that monocolored decks such as white, red, and even blue, we can't forget about mono blue, are really going to have a nice run at it, and which is hilarious considering how many dual lands there are in format. If this is going to ultimately slow decks down, how do you slow down monocolored decks at that point?
You know, monocolor always has the advantage of, one color. So it's like the fact that there's so many lands is always really nice, adds a lot of flexibility, adds a lot of versatility. The Scry land, the fact that they're scrying is going to help them craft those early decks. I'd much rather have a tapped Scry land in the form of a temple than, say, the Khans lands, which were come into play tapped and you gained 1 life, or the guild gates, which come into play tapped and don't really do anything except the fact that they're a gate. But on the other hand, the temples are all at rare, so you're going to be seeing a lot less of them as well. That also means on Arena, that's more of your rare wild cards that are going to be going towards lands, which honestly, even in real Magic, a lot of the bang for your buck is going to be on these dual lands, especially in something like Commander when you have access to such a breadth of them.
Well, and here's the other thing. So we've seen Amardu Angel spoiled, and we've seen Anaya Angel spoiled, right? One from Khans, one from Alara. We were talking about Khans and Alara, the triple colored tribes and archetypes. Do you think we have a return to a triple color plane? Are we going back to Khans or to Alara? I've been thinking about that a lot based on the spoilers. We're starting to see old cards. We're seeing Leyline. We're seeing Disfigure. We're seeing cards that haven't been printed in quite some time. And yes, one could argue that is to lower the price of things. Wizards likes to keep things within a reasonable price with the exception of the reserve list. But you can't help but wonder, are we returning to Alara or the Khans plane. Are we going to do that? And is maybe the Theros lands being reprinted maybe a hint that it might be Khans more so, because Theros came just before Khans, if I remember properly.
Yes, Theros was just before Khans. And I remember that pretty well because Theros was when I got right back into Magic with Theros, and Khans was when I was still playing Magic pretty regularly. In terms of a return to set, what's the word I'm looking for? The core sets are generally all over the place. That is really cool, though, that they're taking all of these rare lands and bringing us into Theros. There's also a couple other, nods to Theros in cards as well, like the Unchained Berserker has a bit of a Theros feel. The Loyal Pegasus, I believe, is a reprint from Theros, as an example, as well as the Starfield Mystic, which is a enchantment-focused spell for 1 and a white, which also is very, very Theros.
Well, I don't know if we're going to get it back this fall. According to chat, Wizard said 2020 there might be a return one, but not quite this year. So if we're heading to a new plane, I wonder then what Wizards will choose to do with it. Of course, we're not going to see any kind of Eldrazi or anything like that. We've already seen them recently. What does Wizards bring into the fold at this point? Just something to think about. If we're heading to a new plane, sometimes the new plane will mean some kind of new feature as well. Think about the Wastelands. Think about Infect back in the day. Just what kind of new stuff might happen? I want people to think about that as we go into this match. Here we go, Sage versus Clifford. Let's do this. What is Cliff playing? Cliff is playing, looks like a Jund build? Yeah, Jund.
Yeah, I didn't catch the name of Clifford's deck, but yeah, it definitely seems to be some sort of Jund. And I don't believe we're going to be getting Sage's Hand, so I'm real curious to see what they're going to be playing. Some sort of blue. We have blue so far.
All right. Now, unfortunately, we were just talking about lands slowing decks down. This can happen, and I've seen control decks do this as well. So it looks like we have Jund versus either Mono Blue or is it Phoenix? That is my prediction, at least, of what's going on Sage's side until we can see the hand. And it's looking like is it Phoenix right now. Nice.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is going to be, especially with that Electromancer, it's looking like red-blue spells.
But every now and then I've seen Drakes go into a red-blue spells deck as well. So I'm interested to see, will there be a Phoenix, will there be a Drake, or will there be some mix of the two? There's a couple different variants of Izzet going around right now.
Clifford slamming in with the Footlight Fiend and the Butcher, swinging in for 1 power each, but if blocked, they will be able to kill the other. I would probably take this block here. I'm not sure what Sage's Hand is, but you want to get rid of that Dreadhorde Butcher instead of letting it just run away with the game and getting all those counters.
Alright, where there's one Electromancer, sometimes there's another. It's good to go, especially with Charticors here. Perhaps the Phoenix maybe thrown in the grave. Now again, we won't be able to see Sage's Hand. There's some technical issues going on there. But we can see Clifford's hand, and we can kind of have fun predicting about what might be in Sage's hand. So right now we have 2 Thuds, and nothing really that good to spend it on, which is not cool.
Yeah, 2 Thuds and a Costly Plunder. Which, unfortunately, Clifford isn't able to... Oh, no, Clifford is able to cast it. Never mind.
Big fan of the Costly Plunder.
Yeah, Costly Plunder is definitely really good for refreshing those Mardu or Sacrifice-heavy decks.
I think treasures are going to be one thing that I very much miss about Ixalan rotating. Interesting, and the ways in which people had used them really defined the earlier part of the format before guilds came back into the fold.
Yeah, I definitely like the treasure mechanic. And even if we won't have a full quote-unquote treasure-heavy set, it's definitely a design space that Wizards likes working with. In Theros, we had the gold mechanic, which was from a couple cards, And even in the Ravnica sets that dropped recently, we had a handful of treasure cards as well. So I don't think treasure is going to be going anywhere anytime soon.
All right, so Clifford's starting to see a little too much land, a little too much land, a little too much thud, which makes me sad. You know, I used to say you could never have too much thud, but there is too much thud here. And at least Clifford here, it's looking like we'll get the opportunity to use Dreadhorde Butcher here. And now Footlight Fiend as well is back.
Yeah, Dreadhorde having a clear shot to crack in for 1, getting a +1/+1 counter. But I think it might be too little too late if these Phoenixes, if the Phoenix deck starts cooking off.
Yeah, Sage here is very much set up for the Phoenix combo at this point. Still, there's going to be a Radical Idea at the end of this turn, most likely, or an Opt, one of the two. Gotta take advantage of that. And Clifford just does not have enough damage on board to make those thuds work.
Unfortunately, Thud works best with a fully pumped up Dreadhorde Butcher, which Clifford doesn't really have the resources for right now, and doesn't really have any openings for cracking in and getting the counters the hard way.
Alright, so Sage assessing the hand, seeing what's going on here. Going to have another idea, trying to get another Phoenix into that graveyard if possible, because you don't want to let a deck like Clifford's deck run amok for too long.
I'd swinging in for 2 here. Let's see if Sage has another play to put a body on the ground. Otherwise, I'm curious to see if Clifford's just going to start cracking in with both the Footlight Fiend and the Dreadhorde Butcher. Personally, I'd probably keep the Fiend back to take care of that Electromancer, but Clifford's just going to try to do what damage he can.
Alright, Lightning Strike here for Dreadhorde Butcher. What do you do here? Do you take out the Electromancer or do you take out the Phoenix? That Phoenix is going to come back out very quickly with 2 Radical Ideas in the graveyard, so I believe targeting the Electromancer is the best play here, as Clifford does.
Yeah, getting rid of that Electromancer is really going to slow down the Phoenix plan, and putting the Phoenix in the graveyard is just gonna have it come back.
Yeah, Sage at this point, I think it's only a matter of time until the other Phoenixes are hit at this point. Clifford is just not drawing well this match, just too many lands.
Sage with some more discard card draw. And we'll be able to get yet more discard card draw with the Radical Ideas.
Well, that Fine Finality is really interesting draw there. What do you think? You have 2 Dreadhordes. This suddenly got really interesting, Roguelink, especially with the inability to find Phoenixes right now, and Radical Idea costs a little more to cast at this point as well.
Yeah, pulling back 2 Dreadhordes, and I believe they're both going to be... Yeah, they are both going to be coming down this turn as well. So Clifford's going to be cracking in for 3...
It may
and
be
getting
too
a
little,
decent
though.
amount of counters on there.
It might be too late, but that's a shame. If this would have happened maybe a turn or 2 earlier, this could have been a very different game.
Yeah, Clifford does have 2 thuds, so depending on how Sage attacks and what they have in hand, Clifford does technically have lethal. Between swinging in this turn, swinging in next turn, and a thud for each Butcher.
Right, but Clifford just looked through Sage's discard pile. I believe there's only been one strike and one shock played. There's a lot of deck that Sage can go through right now, especially with 2 radical ideas in the graveyard currently.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be close, but Clifford does at least have a line for the victory.
And that should do it. There's the shock.
Yep, the Phoenix is just going to crack in, and that's going to be game 1 for Sage.
What a game, though, considering Clifford took nothing and almost made lethal out of it. That's pretty impressive, considering. Is that a Collision Colossus I see in Clifford's deck? Oh my goodness, Roguelink. I like this Jund deck right now. I really firmly feel like the only card that would be missing from this deck, and again, this is totally a playstyle thing, would be the Sacrifice Priest Outlet.
Yeah, this is the one of the more aggressive versions of this deck, where the primary win con, you'll notice 3 Collision Colossus, 4 Dreadhordes, 4 Thuds. That's going for the turn 3 Dreadhorde Butcher kill. Where you crack in for 1 with the Dreadhorde Butcher, putting a counter on it, then Collision Colossus, swing in, then Thud for lethal. It's kind of crazy. Now, the trick is getting all 3 of those cards with the right management, so it's always pretty close, but you gotta at least go for it.
Well, this is a collection of Magic the Gathering cards, Roguelink. Gotta like the Lava Coil, though.
Yeah, Lava Coil's really nice. I don't super like it against Sage's deck. It is good against Phoenix's. But in terms of what Sage has shown us so far, I don't think they're playing too many creatures.
We don't know what's in Sage's sideboard, but I've seen people sideboard more creatures in this type of matchup, aka Drakes in this case.
Clifford unfortunately drawing even more land here. At least getting the Judith down to start pumping creatures when he starts drawing them. Or not.
Clifford again just drawing far too many land, which again, Clifford has no control over this, but you cannot afford to do that against a deck like this.
Speaking of creatures, the Saheeli that Sage just played is going to put down a Thopter with every single spell that they cast. Hopefully Clifford gets some sort of control or remover for that Planeswalker, otherwise Sage is going to start really running away with this game.
Yeah, one of the issues with not playing Goblin Chain Whirler is you do have to deal with this scenario, which is no bueno. And there is a wonderful side deck tech. That is a Murmuring Mystic, which that is a card that can be easily underestimated. So here's what Sage is going for then, if I'm interpreting this field properly. Going to use Saheeli and Murmuring Mystic to just make a bunch of 1/1, some of them on the ground, some of them in the air, and just kind of hold Clifford off that way. And Clifford primarily wins these games by pumping up the creatures and then thudding them. So Clifford, by not playing these already big creatures, is going to be in trouble here without some sort of card draw. And to my knowledge, I don't know if Clifford runs any kind of card draw in this deck.
Yeah, I didn't see any card draw in the sideboard or the main board, so I don't think there's any in here. Most of Clifford's cards are based around recurring his creatures, like the Abnormal Endurance, or getting benefit off of them dying, like the Judith.
Yeah, and even Finality doesn't do much here for Clifford because it's neg4, and there's still the Saheeli that won't even be dealt with, or the Murmuring Mystic. So the engines are still going to be there, even if Cliff wipes the board at this point.
Yeah, Sage getting plenty of time to set up here with a finale of Promise. A Dread Horde eventually coming down for Clifford, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Though Clifford does have the advantage of bringing it back a couple times with the abnormal endurance, so possibly being a little bit more aggressive here. Yep, looks like that's the game plan.
I do firmly believe that if this was under the London Mulligan rules, that Clifford may have mulliganed that opening hand, but sometimes you mulligan a hand like what Clifford had here, and then you draw no land whatsoever.
Shock coming down, and Clifford opting to ping the Mystic, getting rid of it with that Lava Coil.
It's not a terrible plan, but now at this point, if Sage didn't take out the Phoenixes, this is going to be even more difficult on Clifford.
Clifford is definitely on the back foot this match for sure. And getting back Chart Course and the Shock with the finale of Promise. Getting even more bodies on the board. And going to be able to crack in for quite a bit this next turn.
And there's the Phoenix.
Oh, 2 Phoenixes. I missed the first one.
Yeah, it's always a good idea if you're playing against this deck to keep an eye on the graveyards at all times, and this is why some people, in addition to Dread Horde decks, tend to side deck Sentinel Totem right now of all things. I've seen a lot of people start to tech that into the side deck.
So Clifford able to hold on just a little bit longer, but it might not be quite enough, especially if depending on what Sage has in hand here, and if they're able to get back those Phoenixes this turn.
Here's another card I haven't seen in a while. This is Ralph Storm Conduit here, and there used to, well, there still is, but there used to be more of this card when the combo was going on with Ralph.
Sometimes I make it rain just for fun.
Tormenting Voice, not going to be quite enough for the Phoenixes yet. But I have a feeling Sage is going to be able to get him out next turn, if not just crack in for lethal here soon. All it takes is a shock at this point.
Yeah, at this point, Clifford is outnumbered, and again, you cannot afford at any point in the format to be drawing into too many lands. I wonder how many Clifford's running, and I wonder how much the Shuffler is playing a role in this, because there's just so many lands being drawn here on Clifford's side.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch how many lands Clifford's was playing. I think this kind of deck usually runs 20 or 22 traditionally, though he might be running more than that to try to guarantee the amount of mana that he needs for the turn 3 combo. And any spell with Ral, that's going to be GG.
GG to Sage. I do like the side deck alterations there, but I really wanted to see what Clifford's deck could do in that scenario, but just no gas there, unfortunately, for Clifford.
Yeah, Clifford had some pretty unfortunate card draws there. Unable to really get back into things.
And I think for reasons shown as well, that's why a lot of people are trying to go to one extreme or the other in terms of either or playing hyper aggro versus mid or even aggro mid.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm not really seeing too many mid-range decks these last couple of days.
Well, there's a couple of questions that you have to ask yourself while doing this. The first question is, can your deck survive a board wipe? There are way too many board wipes right now in Standard. I don't think I've recalled seeing this many board wipes. And now to make things even worse, Plunder Cleansing is getting reprinted now in M20. And I believe Plunder Cleansing exiles everything except for lands on the field. That is a Seawolf deck name. King K. Gruul.
Yeah, that's pretty good. But yes, Planar Cleansing is 3 white, so pretty expensive. Destroy all non-land permanents.
So that's the first one. The second question you have to ask yourself is, are you fast enough to combat Mono Blue? It's another one. Always essential to ask that, because Mono Blue can be over in 3 turns if they get set up.
Yep, and also, are you fast enough to at least hold your own against Mono Red?
Yep, and sometimes the only thing that can ward off red is itself.
And it looks like we're getting started. Yep, Seawolf with some Gruul shenanigans for sure. Domri and Spellbreaker, 2 definite powerhouses. The turn 3 is going to be crazy with a turn 2 Lightning Strike to handle whatever gets placed onto the battlefield.
One of my predictions for post-core 2020 is the fact that Gruul, Spellbreaker, and Zertal Goblin both will see more play because of that Naya Angel that will pump them up. Multicolored spells will receive an Anthem. Seawolf knows better than to let a Wild Growth Walker go by.
Oh, definitely. And it looks like Seawolf is going to opt for the haste this time, cracking in with that Spellbreaker, which is just going to get pumped by the Domri next turn. Fortunately for Seawolf, the Branch Walker not getting a counter, and drawing a shock to fully use their mana. Seawolf definitely able to keep Algernon on the back foot here.
Look at this board that Seawolf has already come up with, and there's still the Phoenix. Yeah, Seawolf came out swinging. There was no chance there.
Yeah, that was a pretty spicy start. And plus he got exactly as much mana that he needed to just really power through that game. Getting a slightly better look at the board. Little bit of ramp for the Hellkite and the Immortal Sun. Though it looks like he's going with a more aggressive strategy here. And I believe that was a couple Tybalts that came in.
Interested to see what's going to happen here in game 2. I really couldn't get too much of a feel for Algernon's deck just because Seawolf just had that much anger, I guess we can call it, with all of the Phoenixes and the Spellbreakers and Domri. It was just too good. It was absolutely too good.
Yeah, Seawolf was definitely able to power through, but it did also look like Algernon a decent number of sideboard choices, at the very least, made a decent number of sideboard choices to counter Seawolf's deck. So it would not surprise me if there was some. And Gruul is a pretty common deck that you can sideboard against, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was some pretty specific tech for what Seawolf pulled last game.
You should be flattered. My assistants are painfully sloppy.
There's a branch walker to start. This has to be Sultai Dreadhorde if I were to guess on Algernon's, and now I'm getting a more complete picture of what's going on.
Yeah, I don't think we saw the black mana at all last game, but I'm not sure. Seawolf having a flyer, though, which Algernon's really going to have to find a way to deal with, and there we go, Vraska's Contempt.
But Tybalt says no to the life gain.
Well, this wasn't very...
Well, Algernon says no to the Tybalt.
Seawolf ready to race Algernon, and why not at this point? We know it's coming. Here comes Jade Light Ranger, but Seawolf ready right away with the Lightning Strike to the Walker. Now the question is, will Jade Light Ranger go away?
I would not be
No.
surprised if that strike is gonna well, maybe not now, because it's just a 2-1.
Yeah. That's something you just want to swing into at that point. There's the Girl Spellbreaker as well. That was a good draw for Seawolf. Seawolf wants to get in as much damage as possible because if Dreadhorde gets played next turn, Seawolf is in a lot of trouble. And this is what it's going to come down to. Does Algernon have the Dreadhorde to play? Doesn't have to pay for the mana. That's a good start for Algernon.
There's definitely some good cards in the graveyard right now for the Dreadhorde play.
Well, there's Vraska. That'll help.
Plus the cast down, getting rid of that Spellbreaker.
For a life.
Now here, you have to wonder what the play is. You get rid of the Branch Walker they're hoping to draw a Dreadhorde, because at this point... Oh, never mind. Algernon did make the right play here. Here comes Skargan Hellkite, one of the best big red cards around.
Cracking in for quite a bit, going with the haste and straight to that Golgari Queen.
Doesn't
Algernon
entirely kill it.
Just a flesh wound.
Not quite. It's at 1. Algernon making the right call, blocking the elf instead.
Being ruthless has its rules.
As Seawolf continuing to crack in. Is that Lightning Strike gonna go straight to the Vraska, though? Yep, there it is.
Yeah, Seawolf says that's enough of that. Be gone.
That... I don't think that Devil card had the right art.
No, that
What
double
was that?
card has been that is alright, so that was the old art for Totally Lost. So anytime that the art messes up for Wizards, they have done that. And here it comes!
I
Liliana,
am the
sacrifice 2
master
creatures.
here.
I'm sure Algernon wants nothing to do with that Hellkite.
Get out of my way!
And Algernon making the correct decision here. Seawolf gonna bluff. Liliana is the card you want to see late game. This might be the break that Algernon needed. More lands.
Yeah, Liliana by herself on the board can definitely run away with games, regardless of the difference in light total between you and your opponent.
There's just too many resources. You're making creatures, you're drawing cards. I mean, you're killing your opponent's stuff. Like, there's no way to go wrong with Liliana. We don't see too much of her lately because, again, Esper is a thing that exists that keeps some of these cards out of the format.
Rise and shine.
Algernon definitely starting to turn this game around, and with an Eldest Reborn, that's going to be able to get some pretty spicy hits from Seawolf's graveyard.
I haven't seen Eldest Reborn in so long. That is a great selection there by Algernon. Algernon really making great selections in the deck, and it's really paying off late game.
Algernon's deck clearly just needed to hold on, and now it's the one in control.
And I believe too, if I'm thinking what's going on here, Algernon's probably going to pick Skargan Hellkite, but I think this Krasis alone is going to end the match.
I was not expecting to see a Krasis here.
If you see Simic Colors, just know it's always possible. That and Frilled Mystic. I have learned that when you see Simic Colors, there are 3 really bad things that can be dropped if you're playing against it. Frilled Mystic, Hydrate Krasis, and you know what the third one is. It's Nissa. Of course, it's Nissa. It will always be Nissa until it rotates out. And Seawolf's just like, alright, that's enough of that.
Yeah, Clifford getting a ton of pump and a ton of control, but not having the creatures anymore to really make it happen.
Yeah, Seawolf really did run out of creatures there. Seawolf now not messing around, going for the Sentinel totems here. You see that one of Chaos one Seawolf has?
Oh yeah, very spicy. Seawolf in general just seeming to speed up the deck.
Yep, when you're going into game 3 and you are on the play, you definitely want to lower that mana curve as much as possible. Alright, this is a risky hand for Seawolf to keep, but I kind of like it, if only the Paradise Druid is what really brings the whole hand together, you know?
Yeah, a little bit of control with the status statue, but being able to get that Sarkhan on 3 or on 4, on 3 or 4, depending on what Seawolf is able to play here.
Oh,
With a Chaos Wand.
I like it. I like it so much, Roguelink. What kind of havoc will this wreak? I'm pretty excited about this, actually. This is Seawolf's signature sideboard. He likes to put it in whenever he feels like or whenever he pleases.
I was just gonna.
Oh,
that's a shame.
that.
I was just gonna say, Seawolf strikes me as the kind of person that just puts one Chaos Wand in every deck, regardless.
That's so. I wanted to see it be put into standard play, but that's so sad.
Well, to be fair, it did hit the battlefield, so it is half credit.
Your end has arrived!
Oh, we're keeping score now, eh? Alright, so Seawolf still has a slight upper hand. The Jade Light makes it a little more complicated, but that Sarkhan is going to start doing some damage.
Yeah, fortunately, Algernon got both counters on that Jade Light Ranger. Really important when looking down at that dragon. Unfortunately, I think that Ranger, or maybe even just the Walker, has a statue with its name on it.
Seawolf here, going to be going big or going home here. Here it comes, Collision Colossus. 16
For a spicy
damage.
16 damage.
Oh, I like it. But Seawolf knows that other Jade Light's there. That's like the whole bummer of the situation right now.
That's probably one of the reasons why Seawolf felt they needed to get so aggressive. Knock down that life total just a little bit more.
That Liliana will probably... Oh, it is staying on top. Nope. Just Algernon wanted the counters on Jade Light, which makes sense. Now, from what I saw in Seawolf's deck, I don't think the Chain Whirler combo is present. Oh, I may think I know what's going on here. This dragon's gonna do damage to the stuff, right?
Yup. And with Death Touch,
Listen to them
Oh,
because the
Seawolf!
dragon itself is dealing the damage, therefore, Death
That-
Touch takes effect.
That's creative. Seawolf here just really pressing the issue here, especially on 3 mana. Here comes 12 more damage. What a move by Seawolf! Seawolf, normally knocking on Death's door, is able to outsmart using Sarkhan's passive, which there's no shame in falling to Sarkhan's passive because not too many people look at Sarkhan's passive. Most of the time it's just, you see Big Dragon, you see the fact Sarkhan can swing, and just that passive just doesn't quite process, and Seawolf taking advantage of the status part of Status Statue wins the game. What a game, and what a play by Seawolf to save it.
That was a great turnaround.
That is a play. And that is why Chain Whirler is probably not in there, because that play exists.
Yeah, if there was all of your creatures have Death Touch, I think Chain Whirler would just go off at that point. And that's going to be it for us tonight. Welcome Clifford and
Hello.
Mike to the commentary booth.
Welcome.
Hello,
This
friends.
is a booth now.
Hello.
Hello.
I thought it was a table. Like, I asked specifically for a table because then we could all sit around it.
There's a table in the booth.
Oh, okay.
But is it a round table?
Only if you're playing mono white knights.
I understand now. It all makes sense.
So that was a game of Magic the Gathering we just witnessed.
It certainly was.
I didn't even see what was all that was going on. All I saw was there was Collision Colossuses, there was Phoenixes.
Pretty spicy Collision Colossus, that's for sure.
Seawolf used Sarkhan's passive ability to win the game. You don't see that often.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing.
Turns out, if you give Sarkhan's Dragon Colossus and you go to swing at Sarkhan, that dragon's dealing Death Touch damage, and it's gonna destroy quite a few things.
That is pretty interesting.
So, what did you think of all of the standard tonight that you guys got to witness?
I think, if I'm honest, other than the Dread Horde stuff, I don't think it accurately represents what's really out there in Standard right now. So, I'm gonna take a conservative estimate and say 70% of matches have Mono Red and Esper in some form tied into it.
Yeah, it's a pretty accurate statement. There's
Dread
always
Horde-
some form of red out there.
Dread Horde is like this weird thing that's kind of floating out there and not really. Same thing with Mono White. Like Mono White and Dread Horde are kind of like the other ones. A little bit of Bant in there, of course, as well. And then we saw some Mardu, which again, not very common tonight. Saw some Jund, again, not very common tonight. But if you want an accurate slice of Standard, if you were to go on to the Mythic ladder today, it would be Mono Red, Esper, Mono Red, and maybe you'll see the blue, the white, and the Dread Horde somewhere in there, but it's not very common.
But who wants to play mono red? It's mono red. Like, I
do.
almost
I
played
play
it.
all of my cards and I win the game.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
It's
Winning
gotten
the
to
game
the
is fun,
point.
I hear.
It's gotten to the point where Mono White now uses Experimental Frenzy. Just saying.
What?
Yeah, Mono White uses Experimental Frenzy now. Very common
Is it mono
thing.
white? If you splash red.
It's kind of Mono White. Like, it has the essence of Mono White. It's just that little brief splash for Frenzy. And if you do see it on the Mythic ladder, that's what's really going on right now. It used to be the flavor of the month was going to be Splash for Teferian for Deputy of Detention, but not anymore. It's all about Experimental Frenzy. That's one of the few ways you can come back against Esper. So,
That's interesting.
That's one of the appeals here on Wednesday Night Magic. You will not see a ton of the meta because guess what? You can watch the meta literally whenever. Here on Wednesday Night Magic, people like to get creative. We like to see the combos like what Seawolf did, and that's one thing that always gets me watching here.
Yeah, we kind of do our own meta. You know, like me, I just throw in a kind of aristocrats. Is it valid? I don't know, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
I like it.
I like stuff that I'm not necessarily gonna go win like a PTQ or something like that, but if I'm going to locals, I'm gonna definitely have some fun.
Oh, definitely.
Well, all right. We will let you guys get out of here as we get set up for the next race, the next game. My mind on speedrunning as always.
If it's aggro on aggro, I'm blaming you, because that is a race.
It's always a race. You're always racing. You just sometimes you're not.
Racing to see whose life points hit 0 unless you just can't lose the game, in that which case you're racing to see who can win the game.
You laugh, but there's something coming out. We were just talking about this with M20. There is an infinite combo where if it gets played, it's just a draw.
Really? What is it?
It is Polyraptor plus this new dino that got released. I'll be able to tell y'all in a second its name, but the dino just got spoiled today, and somebody's like, wait, Polyraptor's still going to be here for another few months. What happens? And Wizard said it's a draw if that happens. Where is it? It is
Marauding Raptor. Yep.
Yep, and it says whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Marauding Raptor deals 2 damage to it. Well, imagine Polyraptor does 2 damage, does 2 damage to the copy, does 2 damage to the copy's copy, does 2 damage to the copy's copy,
Yeah.
and you know.
It is indeed an infinite loop.
It is.
Because as much as shortcuts exist in Magic, are true infinite loops.
So I might do a test match with either Seawolf or Roguelink at some point, and we're just going to let the combo happen, and we're going to see what the UI does, because I'm very interested just to see what happens for Science with Arena's client.
I really want to know if it'll actually just crash the game, because the stack gets so big.
In beta, it crashed the game.
Yeah, I believe it.
I broke Magic with Anointer Priest, and lucky for them, Anointer Priest rotated. That was another card that broke Magic pretty badly.
Did you know that there's also another infinite combo that is not a true infinite combo? So it's not like an infinite combo. So let's say you have 7 cards in your hand with 1 card in your library. One of those cards, or you have no cards in library. You have 7 cards in your hand. Your opponent's on the play. They have a Teferi on the field. They use Teferi's ability, tuck Teferi, put 1 card back in the library. They have 1 card left, and then they say pass, you draw your card for turn, you have 8 cards in hand, you go to discard, you discard Nexus of Fate. Nexus of Fate gets reshuffled back in your library, you have 1 card back. So, at which point, who wins that game? This is actually a true judge question.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not a judge. I have thought about taking the judging test. I really had thought about it. Maybe I still will, but I'm a little shy still, and I still have a bit to learn. Even after playing Magic for 9 years, there are still some things where somebody asks me a question, and I'm like, I have no clue, because I've never seen that before.
Yeah. So, the answer is, the person who is continuously talking to Teferi loses that game. Because you're making a conscious decision to keep the game going, whereas the person who is discarding Nexus of Fate cannot make a different decision to change the outcome of the game.
Very cool.
Yeah,
well,
so there's just a unique interaction.
I know this next match is going to start. I'm going to take my leave. Thank you so much again to Team Instant Speed for having us. Thanks to Roguelink, my co-commentator. We had a ton of fun. And thanks to everybody who played. Seeing the second segment of this.
Yeah, thanks for having us, and enjoy your games of Magic.
Yeah, thanks for doing the talky stuff, and we will see you soon.
Take care.
Bye. Alright, looks like we've got Zelnas versus the Seawolf about to go down. We're gonna see Seawolf throw down the, the Gruul shenanigans. Gruul with Splashing Black, maybe? I don't think I've ever seen what Zelnas has played before.
He was playing a Dreadhorde deck earlier. I played him. Got there in 3.
Well, Either way, I'm excited to watch some of this Magic coming up here. I haven't played Magic in a bit, so it's always refreshing to jump back into it.
Yeah, and what a great time to jump back in. Wednesday nights here. Oh,
That's not Magic. Pardon us, guys. I think we just had to get a client restart.
something happened.
Yeah, if you had to pick a card in Standard right now, Clifford, to just pick as your favorite card, not necessarily in a deck that you currently play, but if you had to pick a favorite card, what would it be?
Oh, that's easy. It's Dreadhorde Butcher all the way.
Yeah.
Dreadhorde Butcher is my favorite card. I think it's still the best card in the in Standard by itself. It just needs some help to really get there. I love Slith Firewalker. It's one of my all-time favorite cards, and this just takes it to another level.
I think my favorite are cards like Gutter Snipe and Firebrand Archer, because then you can play Storm cards, get really spicy like that. But
Oh, yeah, that's also fun times.
we're going into game 1 here. And both sides are ready.
And it looks like Bant on Seawolf's side.
Band versus Black, Blue, Red. Masterminds Acquisition's an interesting card in a best of 3. Don't see that all that much.
That is interesting. Is it a wish board? I like a good wish board.
I do like a good wish board too, because it also makes it spicy, because you get to maybe not make some interesting sideboard choices in game 1 that you may not make in game 2 because you have Masterminds.
And we have not Bitter Blossom coming down.
Dreadhorde Invasion on 2, gonna be looking to it's bounced by Teferi.
Teferi says no, you're not. No
Yeah, get that card.
army for you.
Angrath's Rampage. The card's interesting, you have the decision to make your opponent sacrifice other things, so.
Yeah, you get to choose which type of thing they sacrifice. So lots of versatility. And we see the Krasis on one side and the Contempt just taking it away. Get out of here.
Interesting, because what you're seeing more from Xel'Naz is more of a control style of play, look more like our mid-range, but I haven't really seen too much of the win con. Maybe Mastermind's Acquisition for something we haven't seen in a sideboard.
That's definitely a possibility. Going down to 6 now.
Okay, now he's on the 1-turn clock here, so we're gonna have to see what he does. Cry the Crinarium can get rid of that Paradise Druid, but not gonna be able to get rid of the other cards.
So we're just gonna see the scoop there.
Alright, so looking at Xel'Naz's sideboard, got Negates, Narset, Moment of Craving, Elder Spill, Thief of Sanity. So maybe if I was using Mastermind's Acquisition, okay, it was a 1 of. Makes sense. But I would have probably gotten Thief of Sanity.
Yeah, Thieves of Sanity seems like a good card to go fetch in game 1.
It's got flying. It's a 3/3 or something like that. It's not a bad card. It's a 2/2. Sorry, yeah. But see what Seawolf brings in for game number 2 here.
Zelnus will take the play, probably.
I don't know, having
Looks
that
like
extra card is pretty nice. Yep, definitely taking the play here. Duress opening hand, not a bad card.
One of my all-time favorite cards. The Wanderer, the Teferi. What's the choice?
Seeing as I'm playing a spell deck for Zalnaz, I would say take out the wand. But Teferi is probably the smarter choice.
You know, Thought Erasure coming in.
Okay.
And just get rid of both of them.
So we did see him throw a Chaos Wand himself into the graveyard, if I'm not mistaken. No, Thought Erasure took a card out of Seawolf's hand.
Thought
sorry.
Erasure grabbed it.
Yeah.
And the Llanowar Elf will be cast down.
Interesting, because Negate was still in hand in Seawolf, so it's, you know, now that that information hasn't been given away, you're kind of interested to see what's going to happen here. We know that the Negate is probably going to be protecting the Nissa, which is smart. But then we've got 2 Planeswalker kill cards in hand from Zelnaz. It's just on a 2-turn clock at this point.
And there is that negate taking out the Thought Erasure.
Nicobolus. Go ahead.
I was just saying to protect the Nissa, like you said, yeah.
Witness
Yeah.
the ties that bind us
So
all.
Nicobolus, new Nicobolus, Dragon God,
Behold,
in hand. That's a really nasty card, especially if you're already out of cards in hand. So Seawolf unknowingly has to be pretty careful with the way that they're playing right now.
There's that Angrath's Rampage again.
Pretty infuriating, honestly. If you're on Seawolf's side of the field, you're just like, man, I just can't get anything to land. Just can't do anything. And so now Duress, I believe, Duress is gonna be played. We know it's a land now. Whenever we get that extra land, we know that whatever is happening is not gonna be held up. So for Zelnaz right here, we're honestly just waiting for that last land in order to lock this game out from Seawolf.
Yeah, that's all it's going to take is any land at this point.
But Llanowar Elf is a big 1/1 right now. And, you know, that's 9-turn clock, but Nicobolus is going to be found. Oh no, we're going to play the Fastest Contempt. That's interesting.
Might as well make sure it's not another negate.
Okay, now we begin the lockout. So now
What a plus one.
what we have to do is we have to just keep drawing cards at this point. And hope we get to... Oh, never mind. So that Paradise Druid is the only card on the field that will be there on the field from now on. Every time Seawolf goes to draw, they're just going to have to put it away. Enhanced Manipulation.
Not going to help at this point.
So it's not a true lockout. Okay, now it's over. Oh, the mass manipulation
it's
does
for
hit
planeswalkers? I thought it was only
I
creatures.
thought it was creatures.
Well, that makes that
Wow.
card way better than...
Let your weak
That's huge.
forcing the Elder Spell to kill the Nicobolus.
Wow, that is a really smart play on Seawolf's side. That must be why they weren't just conceding the game at like the side of the Nicobolus.
Yeah, that makes sense. Today I learned.
Yeah, because the cards like Entrancing Melody, which is the same effect just on one creature. That's only on a creature, not a planeswalker as well. So today I learned mass manipulation can affect creatures and planeswalkers.
It helps to read the cards, I hear.
Yes, I like to look at the art to determine if I play my card, but not necessarily how that works.
It's a good strategy, as good as any.
Before
Mhm.
action.
So I was about to hit him with the good game, but says hello instead. Shalai, very strong card.
Still have much to learn.
I personally play whenever I play some things I just don't want to be targeted by. Shalai is always in my sideboard. So that was the best of 3. Seawolf taking it 2-0 over Zelnaz.
GG's to Seawolf.
Claris, how you doing? Everybody in chat, you guys are enjoying what you're seeing, or you want to get involved in the conversation? Just say what's up. You know, get involved in the communities. We have the Discord as well. Type in !MTGA to get involved in our communities.
Yeah, it's a good time here, and you know we're gonna be dark on Twitch for the next couple of weeks, but we will be at GDQ, and so come see me. I'll have stickers. I'll have stickers with that cool dragon on them. They're pretty awesome.
It's a pretty neat dragon. I wish I was going to GDQ and get some of the merchandise that's going around.
And you know, if you're not, you know, say something in the Discord, and then I might put a channel together for when I get home to maybe mail out some extras to people in Arco.
That'll be really nice. So if you guys heard him, if you guys want to get maybe a free sticker, join the Discord.
They're awesome stickers. Like they came out really well. I'm really happy with.
So it looks like next we're going to be seeing Seawolf versus Kaizen Ma.
Yeah, Seawolf versus Kaizen Ma, I believe, will be next.
Maybe Seawolf will be bringing some more new hotness, or maybe just playing the same deck. We'll never know. I like that that deck's name is Yoink. Very good.
We got to see the Yoink on the Bolas too. That was excellent. Perfectly named.
That's very aptly named deck. Ladies and gentle vamps, I like that.
Corgi's hot dog. All right. So, we will be getting started very shortly.
Is there any game at SGDQ that you're looking forward to seeing, Clifford? I haven't checked out the schedule yet, so I'm sure there's other games that are gonna be there.
I'm looking forward to several runs at GDQ. I'm looking forward to the Andy. They're doing the SMZ3 combo rando, but they're each playing, like Andy's playing the Link to the Past side, and I believe it's Ivan playing the Super Metroid side.
Okay. I think I was actually starting to watch one of those runs on YouTube because it's very fascinating. But,
It makes me kind of wish I was any good at Super Metroid.
yeah. We can play Link to the Past all day, but Super Metroid's a definitely different game.
Yeah, completely and totally. And I mean, I've only played it once. I played it blind last year for the first time, and I was so bad at it.
Gotcha. So, getting right in here to game number 1, we see a Scry from Seawolf's side. Kaizen Ma gonna keep their 7. Looks like they're playing. Is it Drake's?
Is it though, or is it Phoenix's?
I'm gonna assume it's Drake's.
Yeah, I think it's
seeing
Drake's,
already some low
'cause
cost
there's
cards.
Seeing the Drake already there, it makes sense.
Yeah, but you never know. Phoenix could definitely be in the deck, especially with the number of spells you're gonna be slinging here. Charted course on 2 is not bad.
Never. Drawing 2 cards is always welcome.
Especially if you want to get rid of maybe one of those cards that you don't necessarily need right now.
Meanwhile, Seawolf on another land off the top.
I think this is actually Phoenix's. Or Phoenix, is it? Because Tormenting Voice is not necessarily a card that you put in your deck without wanting to discard cards to get to Phoenix faster.
That's very fair. We see
Crackling Drake is just a strong card to begin with, so
yeah, draw a card. X4, yeah, it's pretty good. We see the heroic reinforcements. One of the reinforcements met with a lightning strike. That's still going to take Kaizen down to 9.
yeah, this Dante Vanguard is doing a lot of work right now.
Dante Vanguard is such a good card if you can draw it on 2.
On your turn, 3/1, pay 4 life, get an indestructible. Really good card.
Can block forever if you needed to. Well, at least 4 times. Oh, and an opt copy off the god.
So far we haven't seen much big business coming out here from Kaizen. You know, we're pretty much dancing around the win con at this point.
Yeah, at this point, just trying to stabilize.
Ooh, La Rune Forcer, this is gonna be a real good card. I like those tap this card, tap down abilities.
And the lightning strike pointed towards the heroic reinforcement. Gone now.
Looks like we're gonna be casting a lightning strike using Cagnit's ability.
That seems strong to get rid of the enforcer like that. Just get out of here.
Yep. And not even get rid of any gas that's in your hand either. That is a 6/4 Crackling Drake coming down. Drawing into the island so that we have enough mana to opt at end of turn, making it even bigger.
You know, sometimes lucky.
Yep. Just a casual 7/4. Oh, there's the first Arclight Phoenix.
And enough mana to get it on the field. And everything else, you know.
We could definitely just dump our hand at this point. Card, gonna be discarding the Phoenix. That's 1 spell we've been playing so far. Shock into Lightning Strike into Revival of Phoenix for game, maybe. That's enough damage. I think it is.
Should be. That's enough damage right there after the lightning strike.
Yeah.
Just between.
Alright, so that's very, very good play on Kaizen Ma. Definitely didn't look like they were gonna necessarily win that game, but hey, you know, stuck around, got there.
Such is the power of Phoenixes and Crackling Drakes, and
Yep. So looks like we
God.
are gonna see
Mostly
the
gods.
we're gonna be seeing the elemental or experimental frenzy. Sorry, in the white deck being splashed now. So gonna be able to see what Skybows was talking about earlier.
Yes, experimental frenzy in the white deck. I'm intrigued.
Not sure mono white, honestly. Prove me wrong.
I don't see any Savannah Lions, so you're right. You're right. Remember when Savannah Lions was like a $8 card? Yep, I do.
I remember when a lot of cards were expensive cards that are now like 50-cent cards, 25-cent cards.
So that's 6 lands so far for Kaizen, up against a pretty stellar opening on Seawolves.
Mm-hmm. So is Augur of Bolus gonna be pretty crucial to everything? I think he hit a whiff, right? Didn't hit any instant or sorceries?
That's what it appears.
Which is good, we could have just seen 3 lands go away. Venerated locks it on. Gonna be convoked, giving all of our convoked cards +1/+1 counters. Very strong.
It seems like a
lot of
really
locals.
strong turn 3 board position.
Yeah, that's almost exactly what this mono white deck's gonna try to do. And then History of Benalia with Gideon Blackblade. Jeez.
I walk a righteous path.
Imagine equipping a Gideon Blackblade with a Blackblade Reforged.
That
Very good.
would be ridiculous. I don't think the game could handle it. Might crash the arena client.
What are we looking here? What are we looking at here? So, what is the way that Kaizen Ma comes back from this game?
I believe the answer to that would be concede and move to game 3.
Yeah, unless we see a Cyclonic Rift come out, which is not legal in the standard, mind you. Not looking promising.
So, onward to game 3.
Man, I am just at a loss of what... Like, that was just a classic case of I drew into everything that I needed for Seawolf. Not really much Kaizen Ma can do against I draw into what I win game.
Yeah. Draw the perfect draw on one side and far too many lands on the other. Like a 4 or 5 land keep that then just the first 2 turns lands off the top. That's not gonna end well.
Yeah. Although I'm surprised no Mulligan really came out, so I don't understand why that went down. But I'm not in the mind of the player. All I can do is think about what they could be doing. Perfect turn 1 again here from Seawolf.
Kaizen with some answers this time, but 2 mountains, only gonna be able to play half the cards that matter in his.
Oh, here's an interesting choice. Lightning Strike the Vampire instead of maybe making Seawolf pay the 4 life to keep Adante Vanguard around. But I mean, if you're not trying to 1-for-1, if you are trying to 1-for-1 things, that's definitely the choice. But you could definitely get more value out of the Lightning Strike than it just zapping Adante Vanguard.
Yeah, just wanting to keep the attackers off the field, it looks like.
Mm-hmm. So we do have an Arclight Phoenix in hand, but we are missing our blue mana.
And we have a way to get it into the graveyard also.
Oh yeah, we do. Charter Course.
Well, there's a Bacon Bolt.
It's just a card. It's gonna be definitely useful against the one of these knights.
And there it is again, the Venerated Loxodon buffing the entire.
Card's really good. You do turn 3, turn 4 against a Venerated Loxodon.
Cry a little bit.
Three other creatures in the field just to convoke it.
Oh, and there's the Unbreakable Formation. This just
That's it's a very good turn 5 win if I do say so myself.
I believe the technical term is just GG.
Yeah. Technical term for a good game my opponent, good game my deck. I guess that is definitely Corgi's hot dog, is what we just saw. So, what match do we have coming up next?
Okay, so next, and words are hard. Hold on. Okay, next, now that I can speak, we're gonna have these same two players, Kaizen and Seawolf, playing different decks, and that will close out our night and our week before GDQ, before our mini hiatus. So, very shortly, they will get them going, playing something different. This is activated my Alucard for Seawolf, so we're
I'm
gonna see
disappointed in
something
that
fun.
name. You've activated my Alucard, Yugi.
I didn't get that, but man,
My trap
Ooh.
card, Yugi.
yeah, that's
Fortunate.
awesome. Awesomely bad. All right, off we go for the final game of the night.
Activated my Alucard. What are we looking to do with this deck?
Looks like live long enough to cast something that costs more than 4, or with a Wrath. But with all these things that cost less than 4, maybe I don't know. Looks like the same. We're doing the same thing we were a minute ago. Legion's Landing, an Auto Vanguard.
But we are seeing black and green splash though, so who knows? But what I do know is Kaizen Ma playing mono red. Now that's a deck.
The deck, I hear.
It is the deck indeed. Danto Vanguard getting the ability activated on it, has indestructible now.
Sometimes it's worth. I don't know in this matchup.
Yeah, I don't know either, to be honest. You could, like, at the beginning of your opponent's turn, just like lightning strike it, be like, alright, pay the 4 life or deal with it. You
Or,
just repeatedly just strike it.
At that point, if you let the Vanguard die last turn, you can play the land untapped and cast Legion's Landing and the Paradise Druid.
Mm-hmm.
Or like right there, now the Firebrand.
So now, what I would have done, so in response to the activation of the Danto Vanguard ability, I would have lightning striked it, making it so that the death of the Danto Vanguard happens before the indestructible trigger. So not only did they pay the 4 life for it, but they're also losing their card.
Yes, or force them to pay another 4 life.
Yep. How much do you really want it?
Kaizen gonna get in there, take Seawolf to 8. Gonna see the Wrath coming in now.
Nice Wrath card. Ooh, that's gonna be interesting. The Chandra
My hair is
Fire
on fire?
Artisan.
There's no problem fire can't solve.
No problem, fire can't solve. That's a phrase that my D&D players like live by.
When is it? When is there too much fire?
That and it only takes 10 minutes to burn down a village.
It's just
That's
gonna be
another
bad for you.
refrain.
Lightning strike on the Angel. Okay. Soren.
Soren in stained glass.
Beautiful artwork.
Let me remind you.
Exclusive to Magic Arena too.
Rather than being stuck in
That all you
a
got?
rock
There is
or a
amazing
wall
useful
or whatever.
traits.
Stuck in glass.
Looks way better there.
Legion's Landing. Merfolk Branchwalker gonna get shocked. So it looks like we're still doing not bad in Kaizen Mount side, even though we've
Back
only
and
got a
watch it
Chandra on the
burn.
field, but we drew into a
More land, you know. What do you want to see more than anything? Mountains.
yeah. Although
is a
that is now
waste of
4
my
mountains
time.
that we can now Experimental Frenzy. If we can get there.
What a mess I've made.
Oh, but look at that! Just what we wanted. Another mountain.
I heard you like mountains, so we put mountains with your mountains.
You belong to me now.
And that Adonto Vanguard coming back.
Wizard's Lightning. Oof. Another Sarkin in hand. Man, this game is looking pretty locked out.
Yeah, it's looking pretty favorable for Seabull.
What you do with this Wizard's Lightning? Okay. Okay. Concession, so 1-0 a Seawolf. Take a look at the sideboard.
Couple of Kayas going in.
March of the Multitudes coming out. Stani.
All that seems reasonable.
Yeah. Definitely stuff to deal with. Yeah, I'm gonna push your face in.
So, game 2. Over under 8 lands for Kaizen. What do you think? By turn
Drawing
4.
into, or what we're gonna see in total?
In total. I hope under. For everyone's sake, I hope way under.
I'm gonna call over because I am a sadist.
I mean,
I'm
there has to be
assuming
some
we're gonna
kind of
see
give and
8.
take.
I think we are going to be seeing under, but I'm not hoping, but I'm pretty sure we're gonna see over.
Soon, that's correct. Soon you will be able to turn mountains into funk. It will be good times. With Chandra's Regulator coming out. Now this looks like a more realistic keep from Kaizen.
Absolutely, 3 lands is gonna curve us out really nicely. And,
There's also a good hand on the other side too. There's good hands.
yeah, not bad on both sides, honestly. we have our on 4 on our play on 2, play on 3, play on 4, and we just got the 4th land from Seawolf, so we're going to be seeing a nice curve out here. But we don't necessarily have the black. Well, we do have the black mana already for this the Sorin, but we don't have it for the Kaya's Wrath. We need double black. Oh, we do. Godless Shrine is here.
Oh yeah.
Prison
Oh, that
Realm.
forest keeps us off of the Kaya's Wrath right now.
Yes. Yes.
Stage being lit up draws a bunch of mountains. That's 6. We're at 6 mountains so far.
We're at 6. We're gonna see the under over. To Vanguard attacking the face for 3.
There's 7. Jeez.
It's unlucky here. Is it lucky or is it unlucky? Because we're gonna have the mountains in hand for when we activate Experimental Frenzy, or they're already gonna be gone, I guess.
Yeah, 2 of them would be gone, but
Comes
certainly
the Sorin.
could be worse.
You should fear those born of darkness. The weak feed the strong.
You Wizards Lightning the Vanguard here. Oh, we're gonna go for the Sorin, and then
You will become
on our
dust.
turn get the Sorin again. But little does Kaiserman know we have another one in hand.
And that second Sorin will just be one of those really
You don't look
moments.
scared. I can fix that. My friend is here to help your pain.
That's the Planeswalker that prevents us from gaining life, correct?
Curse you.
Yes, yes, it
Ban
is.
your progeny.
Okay. Okay, now Kaya's Wrath is online with that Plains. There's second Sorin on the field
My
here.
heart is hollow with scorn for you. Hey, time for its rage.
That's
Again,
it's
on
unfortunate.
Tybalt.
Yeah, Tybalt now choosing between activating ability and going away, or just preventing our opponent from gaining life.
On the
There we
Adonto
go.
Vanguard going to get hit twice. Take Seawolf to 5.
Pain.
That's what I'm talking about right there. That's some good play.
So now it's gonna all come down to that E frenzy.
I abhor my need for blood.
That was almost free to keep him that time because gaining 3 Sorin's pretty good, giving everyone lifelink like that.
That is a very good ability. Kaizen Maw. No cards. Experimental Frenzy.
Vampirism is a
What are we gonna do
useful trait.
next turn?
Oh, we're done.
Okay.
All of this stuff like cycling Sorin's now.
What
I
a
like that.
mess
I like the use of the legendary rule going in there.
Kaizen with another land.
Okay, going back to 5. What's the card on top?
The Pyromancer.
Okay, putting us at 3. Next card is a land, and then can't play the next card on top.
The weak feed the strong.
So now we're gonna gain 3. That's smart. Didn't pump for the indestructible. Now we have 7 life to play with. Ooh.
That's a good card.
You can't Kaya's Rapid because it then still becomes an egg.
Wizard's Lightning.
Where's the shock? Oh, it doesn't even need it. Rekindling Phoenix for the win. So now we are 1-2-1, my friend.
This will be it for all of the marbles. I think there are a total of 2 marbles here, but this is for all of them. All 2 of them.
All 2 marbles. You know, that's 2 more marbles than they would normally have, so I don't see anything wrong with that.
No, nothing at all.
That frenzy clutch, yeah, I 100% agree. That was not looking good from the get-go. And I believe the over-under on that was actually under. I think they actually hit 8 lands? 7 lands?
I quit counting, I'll be honest. I know we threw a few away with that one light up the stage.
Yeah. Alright, game number 3, here we go. Snap Keep from Seawolf, Keep from Kaizen Ma, and off to the races we go.
Lava Runner.
Now we have to
Kaizen
draw
with
it.
only 1 land.
Yep. Do we draw the land? We do not draw the land.
Offer trade. Trade declined.
Seawolf saying, I want my extra mana.
I wonder what for.
Seraphim Scales is available. Splendid Angel instead. Good 3/3. On 3.
And when your opponent is still stuck on 1 mana, that's...
Yeah, no, this is already looking like a, not a runaway necessarily, but not in the favor of Kaizen-Ma at the moment.
No, and with the 3/1 drops and the Steamkin, then a Chain Whirler, like that's a risky but a doable keep. I would keep that hand.
Yeah, I would keep that hand too. Like knowing that we would only need the 1 mana to activate we only need 1 extra mana to draw to activate the Runaway Steamkin.
Yeah, and then you could just play Steamkin on 2 if you draw the land, and then 2 boosts with the other 1 drops. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah, it's a hard keep, but I don't know necessarily going into game 3 that's the ideal keep. In the game 1 scenario, I would definitely keep that. In a game 3 scenario, I probably would have tossed it back.
I'd have kept it every time.
Every time.
Every time. There's no way I couldn't keep that. But unfortunately, you just stuck on the 1 land the whole time, and that just sucks for Kaizen, and we'll give Seawolf a 2-1 victory.
Very good for both sides, seeing what we wanted to do, both from Kaizen-Ma and Seawolf. So it's always fun to see both decks have a chance at winning, and we did see both decks win in this scenario, so GG's to both players.
And yes, GG's to both players and to everybody that played tonight. Lots of fun.
Always a good time commentating. I love seeing what people bring to the table. You know, we
Yeah.
saw some Corgis hot dogs. We saw some activations of the Alucard.
What wonderful names.
Gotta commend them. So,
But yeah.
looks like it's gonna wrap us up here. Got anything that you wanna say to our audience?
Yeah, just thanks for hanging out as always. We will be dark next week and the week after for GDQ, and then the 4th of July, and everybody getting home from GDQ. We'll be back 3 weeks from today. Until then, see us at GDQ. We'll be there, running around. I'll be there for sure. I'm the guy with the big beard and the red shirts walking around. Always
You're the
red.
guy running around, and if you see him that he's busy, make sure you pull him aside.
Definitely.
Say hey.
like, say hello, drag me out of my frazzled state, and I'll give you a sticker. I got all sorts of cool instant speed stickers that I'll be taking with me. If you aren't going to be at GDQ, mention it in the GDQ plans Discord channel that you're not going, but would like to be on the list to get some of that swag for after I get home. I'll send more stuff out to people. Yeah, thanks again to our players and everybody hanging out, and to Skybills and Rogue Link on the mic earlier.
Yep.
Yeah, and to you for co-commentating with me, Mike 1780.
Not a problem. Always a pleasure, my friend.
I think that will do us. You all have a wonderful, wonderful few weeks. We will see you back here next month. Take care of each other.
Yep. If you guys want to just talk about more Magic, feel free to hit us up in Discord. We're always active. We always like going over some new stuff the new players can get involved in, old stuff that veterans can speak up on. So, other than that, I'm done here. So thank you all for joining us again. Have a good next 2 weeks.